Hello, good morning and good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today for our fourth in our series, the Instapage product tour, coffee and conversions. Some quick housekeeping items as we get ready to begin in the next few minutes. Please, if you have any questions during the webinar, submit them to the Q&A window and we will answer them towards the end. We will also be sending out a recording and a copy of today's deck via email early next week. And then finally, at the end of today's session, we will share a survey link via email to kind of gather your feedback and learn how we can improve future webinars, ensuring that they provide you with valuable and actionable insights. So now that we have gone over those items, I hope everyone has grabbed their cup of coffee and is ready to get started. So our agenda for today, we will be reviewing new and existing features in the Instapage platform, followed by a live in-product demonstration and our Q&A. Joining us today, we have Griffin, our product marketing manager, myself, senior manager, strategic services, and then Evan, our senior product manager. Diving right into our feature spotlights, the first item that we want to review is our cookieless external tracking. Griffin, I'm going to hand it off to you to go ahead and get us started.
Sounds good. Thanks, Michelle. And hey, everyone. So with our cookieless external tracking, earlier last year, we made it easy to track conversions without third-party cookies. The way we made this possible is by allowing you to set an external page, like a thank you page, as your conversion goal, which counts each visit as a conversion. All you have to do here is add a single workspace script to your destination page and then paste in your URL. Another benefit with this is that you can now reuse that page to track conversions in Instapage. And yeah, you can reuse it as much as you want, and then the correct landing page will always be automatically attributed.
Awesome. And some additional considerations for when you're setting up your external conversion tracking, it's important to determine what stage in the funnel your landing pages is. If it's a lead generation and you have a form on that page that redirects to another page, then external tracking will be good for measuring that conversion. Also, if you're looking to see how top of funnel pages are impacting lower funnel conversions, that would be another great use case for that. Also, it's set up to use wildcards. So if you have dynamic redirects, you can track multiple URLs that use kind of a similar structure and use that wildcard as a placeholder as part of that external conversion URL. The next item on the list is URL pass-through. So back to you, Griffin.
Yeah, our URL pass-through feature, it's a feature that helps you better track your campaigns. It's really simple to use. You just have to toggle it on for text, images, and buttons. And it ensures that any parameters in your links are then appended to your destination URLs. This is important because it keeps your campaign information intact and allows you to better show their impact across your organization.
Awesome. And so to ensure that the query parameters on the page don't break, I would recommend using URL encoded values in place of special characters such as spaces. So, spaces like %20. You can give a quick search online and you can find a list of those encoded values to help make sure that those are pulling through correctly. Another useful implementation of passing along parameters is to trigger personalized or dynamic experiences on the next page. For example, if you're pushing a special promotion, you can ensure that your original promotion parameter is included in the URL leading to the next page. And that will ensure that not only is the content on that third page or second page in line with the landing page they came from, but also that original ad that sent them to the first landing page. Next in our tracking library, we have GA4 custom events. Evan, back to you. Or Griffin, I called you that.
All good. Yeah, this is another useful tracking tool we offer on our Convert plan. It lets you assign GA4 custom events, such as button clicks, directly from the landing page builder and without having to navigate any code. To use this feature, you first need to integrate GA4 and connect it to your page. After that, all you have to do is toggle it on while building, and then you can see and gain deeper insights around your visitors' actions in GA4.
That's awesome. With GA4, everything became an event with parameters added to provide kind of that better granularity beyond the original category, action, and label. And this gives us as users and the people consuming data better control of that data coming in and the story that it tells. It's important to really conduct regular audits of the event tracking to ensure that you don't have rogue elements that fall outside the purview of your reporting. And then make sure that you implement standards and an internal library of what types of events you want to track and how those should be labeled and the parameters that you want to use for those. So now switching gears a little bit, we're going to talk about the image library. Griffin, back to you.
Yeah, for this feature, I like to put it this way. You already uploaded the image, so why have to do it again? With our image library, you don't have to. Just upload your images to your dedicated library and then easily reuse them across your landing pages. You can also organize your images in folders, making it even easier to find and add images to your landing pages.
Yeah. And I think one of the benefits of this launch is, historically it used to be that you could only upload when you were building a landing page, and now that lives outside of the landing page. So if you want to mass import images, you're able to do that. And then some tips and tricks on, keeping that organized. So make sure that you're using folders to better organize your content, and really standard naming conventions to make the content easier to search. So for example, you can use things such as like a short descriptor, so woman and dog, like maybe it's a picture with a woman and a dog, and then even like the image size. So if you're looking for a specific size that you want to put on a page, you could say like a 600 by 600 or 300 by 325. That way you can know which images are which and easily find those in your library. And then I always recommend adding alt tags to make sure that you're optimizing for accessibility. Evan will go over that a little bit more in our in-product demonstration. So then the final feature that we're going to review today is our pop-up builder and library. So Griffin, tell us about that.
Yeah, with these latest additions, this is one we added around a couple months ago, and it gives you a dedicated builder to create pop-ups from outside your landing pages. As Michelle mentioned with images, you can also do it now with your pop-ups, and then you can access and reuse them across your pages through your central library. And so, yeah, this should all sound familiar, like the image library discussed and those benefits there. Ultimately, our aim is to allow you to build or add something once and then reuse it forever, allowing you to get more landing pages out faster and ultimately drive more conversions and revenue.
Yeah. And for those, I really recommend, testing some gamified pop-ups that can help engage visitors more when they come up. So, a lot of times we use the promotion approach of like, oh, give us your email and you'll get 10% or something like that. But sometimes gamifying a little bit kind of hits that reward center of the brain and can encourage that interaction. So I recommend testing that. And then also using exit intent pop-ups. So, studies have shown that they recover up to 15% of abandoning visitors, but they're a great way to grab that visitor's attention when they're exiting your page. And because they're exiting, it's, non-intrusive. It's like you might as well try and get one last effort in pulling them back in by providing that pop-up experience to them. So now that we've kind of gone over some of these features, their benefits, and some tips and tricks, I'm going to hand it over to Evan to show you how to use these inside the platform.
All right, let me get this shared and we can start. So you should be able to see our screen where we're at right now. And the first thing we're going to look at is that external tracking, which comes from your landing page list. So this is landing pages. Then when you select a landing page, you get your slide out. You're going to come to conversion goals. And you'll have this external page tracking option here. When you select that, you will see a lot of instruction. The script is here. If you click this, you can copy it. And as Griffin said, you only need to use this one copy for the whole workspace. And when you set that up on your site, you can put it across all your pages and it will only matter for whatever page you target. So put in a URL here, and then you can also like put wildcards in. So if you had a URL similar to the ones we have in ours, this number here is a variable. So when you put like that in on your site, you would have like a star here and that would fill those in and that would give you that tracking. then on those pages, when it detects it, it will see it because it's this page and know where it came from. So that is your conversion tracking. And the next we want to look at is the URL pass-through. So let's go to the builder and look at a page. Now, URL pass-through is available on every type of link, but we're going to look at, say, this text. And with text, you look at your link setup. In here, you can see this pass-through URL parameter. And you notice this link is pretty clean. It has nothing on the end of it. I'm going to look at this image here that also has a link set up. And on this one, I actually have a UTM set up, 2025 spring landing page. And I also have that pass-through URL set. So then on the live page, we'll switch to that. You can see here, as I highlight this, in the bottom corner, it is linked to instapage.com with no URL pass. This also shows the UTM that I have set. So then if we had a page that had a UTM on it, and notice this one was source and that one's medium. So now you have both, the one that was set in the builder and on the URL. And then in this one, you have the one that is set in the URL. So then if you have one like this, where you have a source that is a new source, and you look at this, it actually overwrote it. So you could have defaults set in your builder and have them overwrite if they come to a page. And then it also just puts it on a link as you need. And that kind of pulls all of your different ways the pass-through can work, and just figure out the way you need it and what's useful for you. I know we have UTMs on here, but as was said, you can use any URL parameters. So if you have custom ones for your site or using something different for some ad platform that adds their own, those will also pass through. The next thing we want to look at is those GA custom events. So let's go back to the builder and we can look at any one of these links that we just looked at. And you see assign GA event, and that option, when you turn it on, you'll have to give this event a name. So give it something that makes sense, like head body copy. And then you can add a parameter, and these parameters are like a key and a value. And if you're using something that you're looking for a lot, maybe you give this like an event name that you're using somewhere else. So this could be pass through conversion. Then your parameter could be like header body copy and click. Or you could have the value of that. It's really up to you how you use these. If you're using GA4, you'll have your own way that you name these things and utilize them. So in order to do this, you also have to have GA4 set up. And in order to do that, there are two things you need to do. One, you go in your workspace settings and you go to integrations. And in here, you will find Google Analytics and you will set up your GA4. You'll go through this process, set it up with the key, and then it will be attached here. And then next, we're going to go back to our workspace. And under landing pages, for that specific landing page, you will need to open your slide out and go to integrations, and then specifically add that pixel tag to that page. And once you have all that, you will be able to use those GA custom events. This is one of the features that is on our higher premium plans, but it's one that if it's something you need, it is worth looking into. So, reach out if you have any questions. Next, let's look at that image library. So we'll start in the builder, and from here, this is a thing you've probably done a million times. You click image and it opens to the library. In the library, you can have these folders. and you can actually use folders to organize your images. If you're not doing it yet, I would encourage it. It makes it easier to find things, but the other part of finding things is making sure that you can see them. And if I had way more, maybe I wouldn't see them immediately. So I want to name them. And I like to name things where it is what it is, but then also some sort of identifier. So this, while it tells me that it's a client logo, it has the word logo. So I could search for that and I could find it. Alt text, you want to explain what it is. So these ones are probably a little less effective than you would have for something like this, where you would have headshot of person, where they're from, a presentation. For accessibility, you want to explain the picture, not the use. If you have like a picture that is something a little more detailed, right? So this is a computer. Yeah, it's just texture on the page, but by explaining what it is, it gives that experience to someone who only gets to see the alt text. And it lets them make that assumption of what it's used for, just like everybody else really has to. The other thing on here is you have insert when you're in the library so that you can put it, you can upload one at a time, or you can always drop multiple images. I'm going to drag a bunch of images directly in here, and it will add multiple at a time. So all of a sudden, I have a whole herd of goats here. And then if I did descriptions, it would be very descriptive about who they are, what they're standing on, how they're looking away, that kind of thing, so that people do get that experience. The other part of the image library comes when you're outside of the builder, where you can find it in your assets. You can click in here, you can see your image library. You can click in, you can edit your information here. The only thing you can't do from the library is, of course, insert, because you have nowhere to put it. And that's everything about the library. So lastly, let's look at the pop-up builder, and we're going to go back into the builder again. And pop-ups have a number of places that you can find them. You can find them in page pop-ups, and those will allow you to have the different types, that at exit intent, a scroll, something for the time on page. If you want it to come up immediately, put that time really low and you'll see it as soon as somebody enters. But you also can put pop-ups on any other link. So instead of an outside URL, you can have pop-up here. You can have them on a button, you can have them on an image, and you can then really set up like all kinds of things with your pop-ups. So this is where we get into our pop-up library. We have this open library. When you come to the library, it always has to happen. Here we go. Okay, we are back. So I have a pop-up in the library that I can use, and I can use the same pop-up across everything. I could insert it right here. I could preview, and I could also create a new pop-up just by editing here. And that will allow me to use the same pop-up in multiple places on the same page, use them across other pages. And let's look back at our assets where we have pop-ups here as well. And with the pop-ups in your assets, you have the library. You also can edit. And this is kind of a new thing we don't have anywhere else, which is this individual builder for an element. So create pop-up. And when it loads, it is your same page builder, but it is not for a page. It's only for the pop-up, and you can use all your elements and build it just like you would any other pop-up. And then when you save that, it will be in your library, just like any of the others that you've created, and they'll be available for other pages. And as with the other assets, we are, continuing to build on this, and we will have newer pieces, and just keep watching for improvements. And that should be all the elements we're covering today.
Awesome. And we had a couple questions come in. So I'm going to start with this first one where they asked if we use UTMs in the outside URL link, do we need to select the pass URL parameter? So I'm actually going to piggyback on this question too, where does the UTM parameter override any UTMs already on the link? So I'll go ahead and answer this one if you're okay with that. So if you already have it attached to the URL that you're sending to, you do not have to select the toggle in order for those UTM parameters to link. But in regards to the add-on question of does the UTM parameter override any UTMs already on the link, if you did have them both enabled and you had a UTM with a similar, like let's say you had UTM source in the URL outside link, and then you also had it in the pass-through, it will use whichever one is last in the list as kind of like your trigger, your tracking. So if your URL link is like UTM underscore source equals XYZ, and then it's also passing UTM underscore source at the end of there, then it's going to use that last one in there. So you just have to kind of be careful on how you want to do that, but it's perfectly fine adding them inside of the URL itself. I do just recommend on a tracking standpoint that you will not get that original source from there if you're using the UTM parameter on the actual URL, if you're overriding that in some fashion. So I hope that answers your question. And then we had a second one that I'm gonna pass over to Evan. Is the assign GA event toggle available in the AMP builder?
It is not. We only have it in our regular builder. As you may have seen, we have not added many new features to AMP. It is one of those things where a lot of people are moving just to using regular mobile, so we're kind of starting to move that direction ourselves. Google doesn't really support AMP anymore, though they say it does, improve Core Web Vitals. It doesn't actually improve rank itself. And most of the Core Web Vital wins that you can get from it, you can get from just making optimized mobile pages.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I was like add to that. So like, Google's kind of like deprioritize that in general as well. So it used to be like AMP pages would show up more towards the top. But now it's just as long as you're providing a good mobile experience and hitting those core web vitals, you should be good on ranking there. Another question came through, are we able to use multiple pop-ups? And I'm gonna add a tandem probably on the same page is the question. So Evan, are you able to use multiple pop-ups on one page?
Definitely. So as I have a page pop-up here, but I could also go and add a pop-up on this link. You could use different pop-ups. You could even use the same pop-up as long as you're using your library. Now, once you insert it, those are now technically separate pop-ups. So I could make modifications to this one and it would not change the one that I have on page pop-ups. But you can use them on every link. You could use different types of pop-ups. Maybe you have one that is kind of your intro like offer that when they come in, it shows them an offer. And then you have another one where it has a sign up button and you want to put that sign up on that modal kind of pop up instead of having it in page. You can use all kinds of them.
Awesome. What about in terms of like, with the triggering, can you trigger multiple pop-ups on the same page?
You cannot trigger multiple page pop-ups on the same page. So you really only get one of these and you can set one up. That is something, we're willing to look into. I think it kind of gets into what is your intent. So something like exit intent, your message is going to be a little different than you may want to kind of bump somebody when they're scrolling to kind of nudge them.
Mm-hmm.
As Michelle said, exit intent, they're leaving. They're already gone. Their mind is in a different spot. So you can risk a little more there because you technically already lost them. Any gains you get are actual new gains. But on the page, if they're scrolling and you have that same kind of offer that may be a little too aggressive to them, that may actually push them away.
All right. One question, I think I'm gonna pass this one to Griffin, is can you schedule a pop-up?
Yeah, with scheduling, I mean, it would work based off if you put it on the page, then you would be able to schedule that page accordingly. And if it has a pop-up, then it would be able to essentially be scheduled, whether it's an update or whether it's a new page. So ultimately, yes, you can achieve this.
Awesome. Can I share images across workspaces?
Uh, you currently cannot. And the reason for this is workspaces themselves were originally intended to be like siloed workspaces for agencies, those kind of people who want to separate their work. We are looking at a new way in the future to be able to segment your work, but not have them so siloed. So as we go through, we'll definitely be reaching out to some customers just to talk about how they're using workspaces, when they're using them as part of the same account, as opposed to having them siloed out and needing those walls between. Say you are using them for campaigns. Something like campaign really shouldn't need you to have that kind of physical separation. So we just need a better way to let you separate different work streams.
Makes sense. Here's a good one. What makes it cookieless storage? Evan, I'm gonna pass that one to you.
Yeah, so our original one that you had to put every time on the page, it needed something that would track exactly where you came from and know exactly where you're going. And the idea of like the end point, knowing where you came from, we've changed the script so that it can now use a different storage unit from that original spot. So on the original page, instead of loading a cookie, which is kind of a different third-party element that it can read, and some browsers don't really support third-party cookies anymore. Google goes back and forth on when they're going to get rid of it. We're using something that's actually part of the browser and more encouraged by these browser creators, which is a local storage. There is a local storage that kind of exists until we time it out. And then there's one that exists until the end of your session. So we're using a longer term one, which means someone could come to your page, they click through and they're on your site going around, and maybe it takes them a little while to get to that conversion. You would still get that conversion because that cookieless tracker in your browser kind of told you where they came from.
One add-on question to that one. What happens if someone visits multiple of your Instapage landing page? Which one will get the conversion?
It's going to depend. So there's two possible things that happen here. If both of your pages have the same conversion page, then it's going to be the last one they visited, because that one's going to have the record that says, when you get to this page, I get credit. But because you can set those URLs in that tracking where it says what the conversion page is, if they have different conversion pages, the one that is kind of set for that to be the conversion page would get that credit. So if you had one that they visited first and the conversion page is A, and then they visited the second page and its conversion is B, but when they got to your site, instead of hitting the conversion for B, they hit A, then that first page would actually still get the credit.
Okay, good to know. All right, well, thank you everybody for your questions. Evan, I'm gonna go ahead and take back the screen share.
Yeah.
All right. So as we wrap up today's learning session, I do want to encourage, if you would like to learn more about any of our features, that you schedule a one-on-one demo with our team. You can simply visit this bit.ly link, bit.ly/ipdemo4, or when you receive the deck, you can click the button below. And then I also want to encourage you to register for our upcoming webinar. We'll be sending out that link as well. It'll be on May 8th at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, where we will review Instablocks, global blocks, format, super, sub, and strike styles, default styles, custom fonts, and then also learn about our professional services team, which I'm a little partial to because that's where I'm from. But very excited for the next one. And I want to thank everybody for joining us today. If you have any follow-up questions, please feel free to reach out and we'll talk to you next time.